You ain't seen my best. Checkmate. In a game of chess. Globalists see me as a threat. Free thinking, got the world at my neck, huh? Am I paranoid? Picture Malcolm X in a room full of bigs trying not to bust a sweat. Ayy, Neil Tyson need to loosen up his vest. They probably write that man one hell of a check. Ayy, I'm over here on this side of town. Come on over here, try to clown. Ayy, I never pipe down. If they weren't coming for me, then they definitely coming for me now. I can't even keep my phone charged up. All the shit I'm talking, I should get my own barred up. Rappers, get off of my dick and get your own bars up. Vladimir and Liz's breath got the clone skirt, cuz whoop. Use your common sense. Why is NASA part Department of Defense? They divided up the seas into 33 degrees, feeding kids masonry. Bruh, be careful what you read. Flatline. There's no superior bloodline. Flatline. You got me once, but that died. Ayy, voice. Do I have a voice? Do I give a fuck? Do I have a choice? Joint. I roll up a joint. Keep my shooters in the game like I hate to disappoint. I see only good things on the horizon. That's probably why the horizon is always rising. Indoctrinated in a cult called science, and graduated to a club full of liars. Heliocentrism, you were the sixth victim. Fuck you and your team, you can sit on the bench with them, they nervous. But before you try to curve it, do your research on David Irving. Stalin was way worse than Hitler. That's why the POTUS gotta wear a kipper. I'm a man first for an artist. Get a lawyer, look up Dr. Richard Sauter. Fans, flatline. You fooled us for the last time. Flatline.
Thank you. What is our next destination for America in space?
The next destination for America in space, and I'm not being trite when I answer this, is the International Space Station. We've got to get there 4 more times this year. The long-term destination, after we successfully close out the space shuttle program, the ultimate destination is Mars. And there are intermediate points that we're going to have to get to before we are capable of going to Mars. If you gave me all the money in the federal budget today, I could not get a human to Mars. I could not morally put a human in a spacecraft and launch them on an 8-month mission to Mars, because I do not understand the radiation environment.
All right, so what is our next destination in space?
The next ultimate destination is Mars.
No, the next one.
Congressman, the next destination, as I said before, is the International Space Station. And we've got to do that 4 more times.
Let's not be trite then. What is the one after that?
It's Mars.
So there's nothing in between as far as you're concerned.
But there are intermediate stops
What are
on the way
they?
there.
What's the next one?
The moon is a destination. Lagrange points are destinations.
Which one is next?
You mean where do we go immediately next? Is that the question?
That's what next means.
Congressman, we are in the process of developing a program. I will have to be able to give you the details, and I will come back and make it for the record in the coming months.
So why are we even talking about how to get to the next destination? We don't even know what that is.
Congressman, we do know what it is. We know what
What is it?
Congressman, we can go back and forth forever.
We seem to have to here. I'm looking for an answer.
Okay. The next destination in the Constellation program was the moon.
What about now, since you're planning to eliminate
the
that?
program of record and the program to which we are working right now, because you have told me that I have to continue to work the Constellation program. We're talking about the 2011 budget, but if you ask me right now, the next destination is the moon.
Okay, good. Now, the Augustine report came up with 4 options and several sub-options or alternatives within the options. Which one did the administration adopt?
The administration adopted the recommendations of the Augustine report, which was the flexible
option?
Path. The flexible path.
The flexible path.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you think
that was the recommendation of the Augustine committee.
All right, now you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I did read the report and it seemed to me that the flexible path involved continuing the Constellation program. Is that a fair statement?
The Constellation, the Augustine committee did not recommend cancellation of the Constellation program.
So then I'm right.
You're right that they did not recommend cancellation of the Constellation program?
The flexible path included continuation of the Constellation program.
The flexible path did not necessarily include I think you.
That just makes no fucking sense. I mean, it's just bullshit. Fuck. Oh my.
Not too bright, folks. Not too fucking bright. But if you talk to one of them about this, if you isolate one of them, you sit them down rationally, and you talk to them about the low IQs and the dumb behavior and the bad decisions, right away they start talking about education. That's the big answer to everything. Education. They say we need more money for education. We need more books, more teachers, more classrooms, more schools. We need more testing for the kids. And you say to them, well, you know, we've tried all of that, and the kids still can't pass the test. They say, oh, don't you worry about that. We're going to lower the passing grades. And that's what they do in a lot of these schools now. They lower the passing grades so more kids can pass. More kids pass, the school looks good, everybody's happy, the IQ of the country slips another 2 or 3 points, and pretty soon all you'll need to get into college is a fucking pencil. Got a pencil? Get the fuck in there, it's physics. Then everyone wonders why 17 other countries graduate more scientists than we do. Education! Politicians know that word, they use it on you. Politicians have traditionally hidden behind 3 things: the flag, the Bible, and children. No child left behind. No child left behind. Oh, really? Well, it wasn't long ago you were talking about giving kids a head start. Head start, left behind? Someone's losing fucking ground here. But there's a reason. There's a reason. There's a reason for this. There's a reason education sucks, and it's the same reason that it will never, ever, ever be fixed. It's never going to get any better. Don't look for it. Be happy with what you got. Because the owners of this country don't want that. I'm talking about the real owners now. The real owners, the big wealthy business interests that control things and make all the important decisions. Forget the politicians. The politicians are put there to give you the idea that you have freedom of choice. You don't. You have no choice. You have owners. They own you. They own everything. They own all the important land. They own and control the corporations. They've long since bought and paid for the Senate, the Congress, the state houses, the city halls. They got the judges in their back pockets. And they own all the big media companies, so they control just about all of the news and information you get to hear. They got you by the balls. They spend billions of dollars every year lobbying to get what they want. Well, we know what they want. They want more for themselves and less for everybody else. But I'll tell you what they don't want. They don't want a population of citizens capable of critical thinking. They don't want well-informed, well-educated people capable of critical thinking. They're not interested in that. That doesn't help them. That's against their interest. That's right. They don't want people who are smart enough to sit around the kitchen table and figure out how badly they're getting fucked by a system that threw them overboard 30 fucking years ago. They don't want that. You know what they want? They want obedient workers. Obedient workers. People who are just smart enough to run the machines and do the paperwork, and just dumb enough to passively accept all these increasingly shittier jobs with the lower pay, the longer hours, the reduced benefits, the end of overtime, and the vanishing pension that disappears the minute you go to collect it. And now they're coming for your Social Security money. They want your fucking retirement money. They want it back, so they can give it to their criminal friends on Wall Street. And you know something? They'll get it. They'll get it all from you sooner or later, because they own this fucking place. It's a big club, and you ain't in it. You and I are not in the big club. And by the way, it's the same big club they use to beat you over the head with all day long when they tell you what to believe. All day long, beating you over the head in their media, telling you what to believe, what to think, and what to buy. The table is tilted, folks. The game is rigged. And nobody seems to notice. Nobody seems to care. Good, honest, hard-working people, white collar, blue collar, doesn't matter what color shirt you have on. Good, honest, hard-working people continue. These are people of modest means. Continue to elect these rich cocksuckers who don't give a fuck about them. They don't give a fuck about you. They don't give a fuck about you. They don't care about you at all. At all. At all. Yeah. You know? And nobody seems to notice, nobody seems to care. That's what the owners count on, the fact that Americans will probably remain willfully ignorant of the big red, white, and blue dick that's being jammed up their assholes every day. Because the owners of this country know the truth. It's called the American dream, because you have to be asleep to believe it.
Surround yourself with greatness. The people who you surround yourself with in your life are important. If you surround yourself with people who build you up, who make you grow, who challenge you to be better, you're going to become great. On the other hand, if you surround yourself with people who just tear you down, who tell you all the reasons why it's not going to work, who tell you that you're not good enough, I call people like that the little man. If you surround yourself with people who are the little man, then soon you become the little man. If they listen to their friends, if they listen to the world that was currently available to them, they would have never been successful, because what they created was not possible. Where your heart, your passion can create something, it can create a new reality that didn't exist before. So you want to do things because it's the right thing to do, because you were meant to do it, because you feel it. And that comes from your heart, not because it makes logical sense to do it. You can always come up with an excuse why you can't do something. And you can say, I'm going to wait for the conditions to be perfect before I go out. The conditions are never perfect. If you wait for the conditions to be perfect to make your dream a reality, then you're going to be sitting on your dream for the rest of your life. If you want something, you go get it. Whatever you're trying to learn now, whatever new skill you're trying to pick up, the beginning stages, they're hard, it's frustrating, it sucks, but don't give up. Because if you keep practicing, you're going to get better and better and better, and soon it won't hurt as much, you won't fall as much, you won't make as many mistakes. It's going to be easier and you'll see more results. Ignore the non-believers. If you have an idea, you're going to have people in your life who are doubters, who don't believe in what you're doing, who will tell you to do the safe thing, the smart thing, and go get a job, that your dream is just not possible. This is a stupid idea. You're going to have a lot of those people in your life, especially if you have a big idea. All you get hit with is negativity. People saying, no, 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 and telling you all the reasons why it's not going to work out. And it's so dangerous because you have a little bit of doubt yourself. And if all you hear is no, and all you see is darkness around you, at some point, this is where a lot of people fall down. This is where a lot of ideas die on the table. Because what happens is you start believing in other people and what they're saying more than you believe in yourself. You start thinking, these guys know what they're talking about. Maybe I am crazy. Maybe I don't know what I'm doing. Maybe this idea really is stupid. And you end up quitting. And then you see a little while later somebody else making huge dollars from your idea. And you kick yourself and you say, that should have been me. I knew this was a good idea, but you stopped believing in yourself and you started believing the doubters.
Okay, thank you everyone for being here today. Thank you to the Tesla Science Foundation for inviting me to speak. My presentation today is entitled, "The Dark Side of Tesla's Technology." We all know the vision that Tesla had planned for the world, free energy and free communications. And had his vision come true, the world would be a lot different of a place today. Well, what I want to talk about here today is how some of Tesla's greatest inventions that we think never came to fruition actually have come to fruition, but in the hands of people who he never intended that technology to be in the hands of, and has been used in ways that Tesla never intended to be used. And this is what it's been used to do, to create a world that is basically on lockdown and under complete control. To understand how Tesla's technology was weaponized, we have to understand two main points of Tesla's experiments and research. And that is his experiments in vibration and resonance and his experimentation with scalar wave technology, which I'll get into in a bit. Tesla's experiments with vibration and resonance is this section, and Tesla is renowned for his extensive experiments with mechanical vibrations and resonance. In 1898, he was experimenting with an electromagnetic oscillator. Attaching the oscillator to a structural beam of his loft building, Tesla turned it on and began making observations and taking notes. Unfortunately, Tesla was unaware that amplified vibrations from the oscillator were traveling through the beam and into the substructure of Manhattan in all directions. Nearby buildings shook, windows shattered, and people poured into the streets believing an earthquake was taking place. Finally, realizing what was happening, Tesla smashed the oscillator and put an end to the experiment. Tesla later described another experiment he conducted with a mechanical oscillator about the size of an alarm clock. He attached it to a steel beam which was 2 feet long and 2 inches thick. Tesla described the results. For a long time, nothing happened. But at last, the great steel link began to tremble, increased its trembling until it dilated and contracted like a beating heart, and finally broke. Sledgehammers could not have done it, but a fusillade of taps, none of which would have harmed a baby, did it. Now imagine a steel beam 2 feet long and 2 inches thick. And Tesla broke that with a simple mechanical oscillator. He decided to take his experiments with vibration and resonance to a new level by attaching one of these oscillators to a steel beam of a partially constructed skyscraper near Wall Street. He described the experiment. In a few minutes, I could feel the beam trembling. Gradually, the trembling increased in intensity and extended throughout the whole great mass of steel. Finally, the structure began to creak and weave, and the steel workers came down to the ground panic-stricken, believing there had been an earthquake. Rumors spread that the building was about to fall. Before anything serious happened, I took off the vibrator, put it in my pocket, and went away. But if I had kept on 10 minutes more, I could have laid that building flat in the street. And with the same vibrator, I could drop the Brooklyn Bridge in less than an hour. This is with a simple mechanical oscillator. Tesla continuously touted the awesome potential of mechanical resonance. He once told newspaper reporters that, using one of his oscillator devices, he would be able to, quote, reduce the Empire State Building to a tangled mass of wreckage in a very short time. Pay attention to this part of the description, folks. First, the outer stone coating of the skyscraper would be hurled off. Then the whole vast skeleton of steel, the pride and glory of the Manhattan skyline, would collapse. The next part of Tesla's technology that we have to understand that has been essentially used in ways it was never intended to be used by the great inventor was scalar waves. Tesla was the rediscoverer of scalar waves. In 1899, Tesla rediscovered scalar waves and conducted experiments with them at his laboratory in Colorado Springs. Scalar waves flow at right angles to electromagnetic waves. They're considered to be finer than gamma rays or X-rays. They belong to the subtle gravitational field and are also known as gravitic waves or longitudinal waves. Many scientists and researchers today refer to them simply as Tesla waves. As a result of his Colorado Springs experiments, Tesla learned how to harness scalar waves from one transmitter to another without using any wires. Tesla later, of course, built a prototype of this magnifying transmitter at Shoreham, Long Island, New York. As we all know, Tesla's funding for this project was revoked after his main financial backer, J.P. Morgan, realized that Tesla's world wireless system would destroy his business profits by allowing people to tap into quote-unquote free energy at no cost. Tesla later discovered that scalar energy becomes bottled from the intersection of two scalar waves. Through interferometry, a technique of crossing scalar wave beams, large standing waves could be combined to produce a focused beam of extremely powerful energy. Several scalar waves sent from different transmitters could also be combined by this technique of interferometry to produce a plasma bottle of very high contained energy. This bottle or shield, it became known as a Tesla shield, could be moved around the planet at will, and the bottled energy could even be detonated remotely. If detonated in the Earth, an earthquake would be the result. If detonated in a building or a city, the result would be a violent explosion akin to a miniature nuclear explosion without any resulting radiation, which would disintegrate all matter within the quote-unquote bottle. And there's a newspaper clipping regarding Tesla's so-called death ray, death beam. Tesla's so-called death ray could literally project the energy of a nuclear warhead and direct it to any location in the world. Some say the massive explosion in Tunguska, Siberia in 1908 may have been due to a test of this technology. The force of the Tunguska explosion was estimated to have been 10 to 15 megatons. The blast flattened 500,000 acres of forest. It is conjectured that Tesla may have been trying to break ice at the polar circle during this test and may have overshot his target. Tesla considered further experimentation with scalar wave technology too dangerous for obvious reasons. He knew that scalar waves could be used to create man-made earthquakes or to create remote disintegration weapons. This is why he made the decision before his death to divide his lifelong research over multiple locations in different countries. That way, no one country could gain a power advantage over the rest of the world by weaponizing technology based on his research. After his death in 1943, the FBI and other intelligence agencies in the United States were actively involved in confiscating and suppressing many of Tesla's documents, including plans for his, quote, death ray weapon and his earthquake machine, deeming them top secret lest they fall into, quote, enemy hands. And it is my contention that this technology did, in fact, fall into enemy hands called the United States government. And it was used on September 11th, 2001. Now, before you scoff at this, take a look at some of the evidence I'll present here today. The first thing I'll ask people is, if you never saw the events of 2011 or heard the official explanations as were given to us by the government and the mainstream media, and you took a look at these following pictures, would you yourself describe that as a collapse?
No way.
Or would you look at that and say, that is more akin to an explosion, a massive explosion, in fact, a disintegration? Are we witnessing a collapse there, or is that the building being disintegrated? What kind of energy is required? As scientists who may be out there listening, is the potential energy in a building of the mass of the World Trade Center and the force due to gravity and some burning kerosene enough to produce that kind of kinetic energy? Once again, the question I ask people to honestly ask themselves, if you did not hear the official narrative and knew nothing about the events of that day, would you describe what you are seeing there as a collapse? That's all I ask. This is a very brilliant woman who I highly suggest everyone really look into the empirical data that she has presented in her book. This is Dr. Judy Wood. She wrote a book called Where Did the Towers Go? Evidence of Directed Free Energy Technology on 9/11. Everybody in this room should read this book and pay close attention to the evidence that Judy Wood presents. And she doesn't really jump to a lot of conclusions. The book is really a book of evidence that she presents. I highly recommend people checking it out. Here is another big part of the evidence, and I want to recall your attention to when Tesla said if he let his oscillator go, it would rip away the stone structure, or the concrete structure of the building first, then it would disintegrate the steel and bring it down in a collapse. This video is Judy Wood speaking about a phenomenon that was observed in World Trade Center 1 when it collapsed, called the spire, which was 70 stories of steel that remained standing after the concrete structure peeled away like a banana.
Now we're going to look from B1 and B2 positions, as well as from C, at what's referred to as the spire. There's that clump of core columns from Tower 1 that seems to remain just a little bit after the rest and then turns to dust. I'm sort of expecting that or suspicious that is right above where those 14 people survived, who thought they would have been crushed and looked up and saw blue sky. Here's Tower 1 coming apart, and it peels away like peeling a banana, and left with these little spires sticking up. That's about 700 feet tall. It's got to be pretty strong to be standing unsupported that tall. Here's Building 7, which is a 47-story building. It's like 650 feet tall, approximately. This has got to be over that. And here's a closer view, and then it starts to drop down and kind of faints, turns to dust. Now, if that thing tipped over, it would take out a few blocks worth of buildings. How's it going to go straight down? You got a 700-foot hole in the ground to drop it into? Okay, for argument's sake, let's pretend we do have a 700-foot hole we're going to drop it into. And you're saying that that's dust that shook off it that settled back here? That's blue sky around that. That's not dust gradually settling. If dust is that fine to hang in the air, it wouldn't be settled on it in that amount of time. So we know it doesn't have much time at all for dust to settle on it.
Now pay very close attention to this part coming up where they show the disintegration of this spire.
You'll just faint. Just faints and dustifies. Pretty neat trick. Now we're going to look at still frames from yet a different position. Remember, it peels away like a banana, leaves it exposed, blue sky, crisp edges. That's not dust settling on it. And then it comes to the point where it no longer has crisp edges and dustifies.
Those were core columns.
Now we're going to look at it from across the river.
Some of the thickest steel beams ever manufactured in North America.
You can see it turning to dust. You know, it isn't tipping over in any particular direction.
Also, when you look at the debris pile, there's not enough matter to account for the mass of the buildings.
The cloud is sort of wrapping around this building. It's a little bit more wrapped around. So you can tell there's not much time has passed between those two images.
Here are those core columns still standing, 700 feet in the air. Is that a collapse or a disintegration? This is a gentleman whose work I highly recommend, Dr. Thomas Bearden. And he has done extensive work about scalar interferometry. Also, you could look at how this technology can be weaponized in different ways, such as modification of weather and the production of artificial earthquakes. If you don't know about HAARP, I'm sure most people here do. It's the High Altitude Active Auroral Research Project in Alaska. It's another thing to definitely research when it comes to how scalar wave technology has been used for all the wrong reasons. And for more information on false flag events, false flag terror events, and how they have been historically used to sway populations in a certain direction, you could check out the new documentary that I appear in from Free Mind Films called Shadow Ring. Highly recommend the documentary. It's very, very well done, and it explains in depth what false flags are and how they've been used historically. If we're ever going to see Tesla's technology used for the right reasons, the way the great inventor envisioned them for our world, as freeing technologies that would unite people, we have to understand what the potential of this technology was. And that means even looking at all the horrible ways that it could be used in the wrong hands. I think the real answer is to truly educate people about what is possible, and to truly educate our young about what Tesla really wanted to do with these technologies.
Real progress is being made in a laboratory in Canada. Here, the full significance of the physical laws of light and space have become clear to John Hutchison, and he is utilizing this knowledge to produce cause and effect experiments which lead to an understanding of the harmony of nature. Science, in harmony with the laws of nature for the good of mankind, will hold great values in many fields and would advance its course beyond our present comprehension. John Hutchison has been working in the areas of electromagnetic forces and the changes in the molecular structure of materials for many years. He has in this time achieved a breakthrough in anti-gravity knowledge, providing spectacular examples of heavy objects flying through the air without any visible signs of propulsion. He has also made amazing discoveries concerning the alteration of compositions of materials by subjecting them to a form of electromagnetic bombardment.
We're looking at something which you know shouldn't be happening.
The result of these experiments showed in graphic detail metal heating to a near liquid state without heat. Hard metals would turn into soft rubbery objects, proving that any substance could change its form if the science involved was understood.
I immediately realized that this had tremendous significance. It had significance in space, it had military implications, and its understanding could possibly open up a whole new energy source.
Hutchison is one of the growing number of scientists who realize that by applying physics to the natural laws of the universe, science will be taken into areas previously unrecognized. John Hutchison's achievement will give science a new momentum as it moves into the next century.
Some of the work of the lone inventor, John Hutchison in Canada, Vancouver, Canada. Hutchison takes two Tesla coils and essentially puts in the center of them a target, which in every target has certain nonlinearities, and then blasts away with these two coils at them. Basically what he establishes is an electromagnetic fighting itself, electromagnetic forces fighting themselves. And gravitational force is made when, a gravitational potential is made when electromagnetic forces fight themselves to a draw, when, in other words, the gradients become zero. The gradient vectors, or the resultants, become zero, but the two forces are still in there slugging it out. All the energy is still going, the work is still going, but it's trapped locally. That's internal energy. That's what gravity is. And the Whittaker paper tells very well how to do that. So when John got things just right, he didn't have control of it, absolute control, but he bored in there with persistence, and when he got things just right to get the forces to fight to a draw, and there was the right nonlinearity in the target, he would have levitation of things even 64 pounds. He would also, another thing you do with such a thing is you cause the magnetostatic potential to change a vacuum. In other words, that's pole, an unfortunate name in magnetism. But in other words, it causes deposits of monopoles inside materials such as metals. And you'll literally have the monopoles repel each other, and you'll have the explosive separation of metals into all kind of grains and structures according to the waves in the Tesla coils that you're bombarding it with. And so he produced magnificent breaks, Hutchison did, in metals and splits as if it were Venetian blinds. And another thing it does, since this stuff comes from the nucleus out, it doesn't go through the electron shells. Its medium is the nuclei. What you have then is you have changes in the atomic nuclei which result in lattice changes. You have the production of alloys which cannot be made in this world with normal processes. And some of those alloys appeared in John Hutchison's work as a result of that kind of bombardment. Another thing you have is once charged with scalar radiation, the nuclei then continue to discharge over a long period of time. And so the material continues to change, alloy form and so forth, over a period of even a year. And you had those changes occur in his work also. He was reproducing and has been reproducing some of the work of Nikola Tesla, and even some of it going further. But that's what he's doing. What he's doing is real. And unfortunately, most people regard John Hutchison as being a little bit off and not really understanding electromagnetics and not really understanding a Tesla coil. Nothing could be further from the truth. He's doing the real electromagnetics. He's doing the kind of electromagnetics they don't know anything about.
Go ahead, pilot. We're ready to take off right now. Right away, sir. Can we get a blanket for Patricia? Here. Where? Over there.
Time's up.
This thing wanted to fly.
Orson Welles' War of the Worlds. Never before had a radio broadcast provoked such outrage or such chaos. Upwards of 1 million people convinced, if only briefly, that the United States was being laid waste by alien invaders, and a nation left to wonder how they possibly could have been so gullible. Brilliantly directed by Welles, The War of the Worlds would become in the end the most famous radio program in history, known forever after as the Panic Broadcast. Yet it all began unremarkably, at a little past 8 o'clock in the East, a Sunday evening like any other in America, with dinners being finished, dishes washed, and radios across the country turned on, more or less in unison.
The Columbia Broadcasting System and station present Orson Welles and the Mercury Theater on the Air in The War of the Worlds by H.G. Wells.
It was October 30th, the eve of Halloween, a night known variously as Mischief Night, Devil's Night, Hell Night, a night that for some 200 years had unleashed all manner of trickery on the unsuspecting. On this night, in 1938, it would also unleash the pent-up anxieties of a nation.
We are bringing you an eyewitness account of what's happening on the Wilmuth Farm, Grover's Mill, New Jersey. We now return you to Carl Phillips at Grover's Mill.
Ladies and gentlemen, am I on? Ladies and gentlemen, here I am, back of a stone wall that adjoins Mr. Wilmuth's garden. From here, I get a sweep of the whole scene. I'll give you every detail as long as I can talk and as long as I can see. More state police have arrived. They're drawing up a cordon in front of the pit. About 30 of them. No need to push the crowd back now. They're willing to keep their distance. The captain's conferring with someone. Can't quite see who. Ah, yes, I believe it's Professor Pearson. Yes, it is. Now they've parted, and the professor moves around one side, studying the object while the captain and 2 policemen advance with something in their hands. I can see it now. It's a white handkerchief tied to a pole. Flag of truce. If those creatures know what that means, what anything means. Wait a minute, something's happening. Humped shape is rising out of the pit. I can make out a small beam of light against a mirror. What's that? There's a jet of flame springing from the mirror, and it leaps right at the advancing men. It strikes them head on. Lord, they're turning into flames. Now the whole field's caught up by the woods, the barns, the gas tanks of the automobiles spreading everywhere. It's coming this way now, about 20 yards to my right.
Ladies and gentlemen, due to circumstances beyond our control, we are unable to continue the broadcast from Grover's Mill. Evidently, there's some difficulty with our field transmission. However, we will return to that point at the earliest opportunity. In the meantime, we have a late bulletin from San Diego, California. Professor Indelkoffer, speaking at a dinner of the California Astronomical Society, expressed the opinion that the explosions on Mars are undoubtedly nothing more than severe volcanic disturbances on the surface of the planet.
Yeah, you ain't seen my best. Checkmate, in a game of chess. Globalists see me as a threat. Free thinking, got the world at my neck, huh? Am I paranoid? Picture Malcolm X in a room full of bigs trying not to bust a sweat. Ayy, Neil Tyson need to loosen up his vest. They probably write that man one hell of a check. Ayy, I'm over here on this side of town. Come on over here, try to clown. Ayy, I never pipe down. If they weren't coming for me, then they definitely coming for me now. I can't even keep my phone charged up. All the shit I'm talking, I should get my own barred up. Rappers, get off of my dick and get your own bars up. Vladimir and Liz's breath got the clone skirt, cuz whoop. Use your common sense. Why is NASA part Department of Defense? They divided up the seas into 33 degrees, feeding kids masonry. Bruh, be careful what you read. Flatline. It's no superior bloodline. Flatline, flatline. You got me once, but that died. Ayy, voice, voice. Do I have a voice? Do I give a fuck? Do I have a choice? Joint, joint. I roll up a joint. Keep my shooters in the game like I hate to disappoint. I see only good things on the horizon. That's probably why the horizon is always rising. Indoctrinated in a cult called science, and graduated to a club full of liars. Heliocentrism, you were the sixth victim. Fuck you and your team, you can sit on the bench with them, they nervous. But before you try to curve it, do your research on David Irving. Stalin was way worse than Hitler. That's why the POTUS gotta wear a kipper. I'm a man first for an artist. Get a lawyer, look up Dr. Richard Sauter. Bounce, flatline. You fooled us for the last time. Flatline, flatline. It's no superior bloodline.
So you want to find the farthest point from that center. And it turns out sea level at the equator is farther away from the center of the Earth than sea level near the poles. It has nothing to do with global warming and melting of the ice caps.
Why is that?
Because Earth, we know it spins once a day. Yes, thank you. 3 people know how long a day lasts here.
Good for row number 2. They're off to a great start.
So you spin, when you spin pizza dough, it kind of flattens out. Yeah. Gets wider in the middle. And so Earth, throughout its life, even when it formed, it was spinning. And it got a little wider at the equator than it does at the poles. So it's not actually a sphere, it's oblate. And officially it's an oblate spheroid. That's what we call it. But not only that, it's slightly wider below the equator than above the equator.
A little chubbier.
A little chubbier.
Yeah.
Chubby's a good word. It's like pear-shaped.
Yeah.
So it turns out the pear-shapedness is bigger than the height of Mount Everest above sea level.
Bounce, flatline. You fooled us for the last time. Flatline, flatline. It's no superior bloodline.